Certainly has been an emotional day in Moncton. And joining me now for more reaction to this sentence is Member of Parliament for Moncton Riverview Dieppe, Robert Gauguin, joins us from our Ottawa studio. Mr. Gauguin, thanks for taking the time to speak with us. When these murders happened back in June, you called this tragedy, quote, beyond comprehension, Moncton's 9/11. What was your reaction to the sentence today?
Well, I believe the sentence reflects the gravity, the severity of the crime. Certainly our whole government has worked towards trying to put in place sentencing principles which reflect, sentences would reflect the gravity of the offense. They call it the proportionality principle. And one can hardly think of an incident which was more horrific than this. I mean, this was a premeditated execution-style killing of three officers who stood in line, who were the buffer between the bad guys and, of course, the perpetrators, the good people. And all of Moncton suffered as a result of this. So certainly I think the sentencing is very in line with what the public's thoughts would be, or with such an abhorrent sort of a crime. I mean, this type of crime doesn't happen in Atlantic Canada. It doesn't happen in Moncton. And I think the sentencing principles that were put in place really reflect the horror of this whole incident. A whole city shut down for 48 hours. I mean, people were living in complete anxiety. So you have the families, I mean, you have the wives, you have the children who now also have a life sentence, who for the rest of their lives are going to have to think about their lost ones, and the fact that, I mean, they'll never see them again only because they were doing their job and some incensed person went and executed them.
Now, few can forget those tense hours in Moncton. You previously said that it would be your job to ensure that Kodiak RCMP have the equipment and training to prevent another tragedy like this. Where is that review at? Where is that whole process at this point?
Well, the authorities within Moncton are assessing this. I haven't yet had communication with them with regards to their increased needs. But it's pretty clear that incidents like this, you have to have the proper equipment. If men and women in the forces are going to stand in line and try to protect people, and against incidents like this, which fortunately are very rare, they have to have the equipment necessary, whether it be the bulletproof vests, whether it be the armored cars, whether it be the proper long gun rifles. But we never know when incidents like this can happen. Last week it happened in Parliament, and the world is quickly changing.
You mentioned a bit of equipment there, but you also mentioned this sort of thing is unpredictable, and it seems that you can't, in some ways, can't prepare for it. What are you hoping that will be tangible that will come out of this review?
Well, what will be tangible is that there will be contingency plans, and that there will be the necessary equipment which will be easily accessible when it's necessary to react. I mean, no one can predict this for sure, but if one does not have contingency plans for things like this, which regretfully are happening more often, then we're completely missing the boat. And certainly this government is dedicated to making sure the public is safe. That's one of its foremost guiding principles.
Mr. Gauguin, if the RCMP do end up getting more protection, do you think that's enough to really prevent them, though, from this kind of unexpected attack?
Look, there's no absolute safe system, and we do live in a democracy. There's no question about that. So what we can do is, to the best of our extent, increase the powers of the police and the forces to make the proper inquiries, to guard against these, to take preventive measures where necessary. But you don't have 50% of the Canadian population following the other 50%.
You touched on how tense and scary those moments were when the search was going on for Justin Bork. I wonder if you've talked to any of your constituents and heard their reaction today.
Well, I haven't had a chance to talk to my constituents today, where I'm in Ottawa, and I was on house duty, so certainly, I mean, you can only be one place at a time. I haven't mastered otherwise. But, and being in the rioting after the event, it was pretty clear that people were to say the least, very anxious of what happened. I know there was one incident when a person was walking into a hardware store with a metal piece that he was returning, and somebody reacted, thought perhaps it was a wrapped firearm, and all the gentleman was doing was returning a piece of equipment because it didn't suit his needs, and the police reacted, as they should. But the level of anxiety was so high that your kids were locked up, you looked outside before you did anything, and it paralyzed even school activities.
Yeah, certainly people feel scarred from it all. Robert Gauguin, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We appreciate your insight.
My pleasure.
MP Robert Gauguin for Moncton Riverview Dieppe joining us from Ottawa.